Let's see. Let me just first start by welcoming everyone. My name is Stephanie Norling. I am the Managing Director for Communities of Excellence 2026. I really appreciate all of you joining us today. I hope you find this interesting and exciting. For us, I think this is a great opportunity, and I'm really pleased that you all could join us today. I want to make a couple of introductions before I start. We have a number of Communities of Excellence supporters, board members, and others on this call today. We have our two co-founders, and actually they were both former CEOs of Baldrige award-winning healthcare organizations. We have Will Cruz, our chair and co-founder, and then Rick Norling, our co-chair and co-founder. We also have on this webinar Ellen Garshik, one of the faculty for the Learning Collaborative, and Mike Kramer, who is going to be talking to us about the management platform that we'll be using for the Collaborative Manage Hub, and we'll get into that just a little bit later. So now I have to remember how to work. Okay, there we go. So today's webinar, this is the agenda. I'm going to give you a brief introduction, just a little bit of background about Communities of Excellence 2026, the organization. I'm going to turn it over to Ellen Garshik, who's from the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program, to tell you a bit more about Baldrige, the framework itself, and the Communities of Excellence framework. Then we'll come back to me and dive into the Learning Collaborative information, specifically on the curriculum, the community involvement, and Manage Hub. And then we'll end it with how to join and questions. Now, I just want to make a couple of comments before we start. We have a lot of people on this webinar, which is fantastic. But that does make it challenging to respond to questions as best as I can. So please use the chat box during the presentation. I'll stop frequently to make sure I respond to any questions, but just please know that it may be challenging, and that at the end of this slide presentation, you'll see my name and contact information. It's also on our website, and it is also going to be in the follow-up email that you receive. So you will have no shortage of ways to contact me. Let's see, just a moment. Okay, so just to give you a quick background, I also know that there are a number of people on this webinar who may not have a background on Baldrige, or also may not be as familiar with Communities of Excellence 2026. So I am going to give a little bit of a background for you all. This began with our two co-founders, both former CEOs, both understanding the power of Baldrige and how it can be used to transform their own organizations, having a conversation just about the concerns about our country and some of the great challenges that our communities are facing. And that's where the idea that could Baldrige, this framework that we know can achieve excellence in organizations, be modified to achieve excellence in communities. We primarily focus on the sectors education, health, economic vitality, and safety, because we know that those are so key to the well-being of residents, and also because they're so interconnected. But that does not mean that those are the only sectors that are being involved. We just think that those, at a minimum, need to be a part of this. We began in 2010, and were formally established as a nonprofit organization in 2013. We formalized our partnership with the Baldrige program in 2015, and throughout all of that time, we had a team of Baldrige and community action experts working on a draft of the Communities of Excellence framework, which was completed and ready for implementation in 2016. We've been using that draft in our two current pilot communities, San Diego County, focused on the South region, with our backbone organization, the Health and Human Services Agency, and the 18 counties of Northwest Missouri with our backbone organization, the Community Foundation of Northwest Missouri. Now, the early success and the incredible interest and outreach that we've had to be involved led us to take this to the next level, which is this National Learning Collaborative. So we're viewing this as an opportunity to engage more communities across the country and allow communities to collaborate and share best practices and jointly become a part of this Communities of Excellence journey. So I would like to turn this over now to Ellen Garshik. She is part of the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program, also one of our faculty members for Communities of Excellence, and she is going to give you a little more background and context on Baldrige and on the Communities of Excellence framework. Ellen?
Okay, sure. Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here with you today. Just for those of you who might not be familiar with Baldrige or its history, we were founded in 1987 in the face of what was considered a national crisis about quality and competition, global competition, particularly with the Japanese. And the mission was to improve the quality and competitiveness of all U.S. organizations. Pretty audacious. And the result of that was a framework that's now used by thousands of organizations of all types across the United States to improve their leadership and management and performance. We are a public-private partnership located at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and we're part of the Department of Commerce. So we are a federal agency. Our private partners are the Baldrige Foundation, which provides funding, a board of examiners, of volunteers from all over the United States who help us evaluate organizations, and our boards of advisors from the private sector, as well as the Alliance for Performance Excellence, which is an umbrella organization for more than 30 Baldrige-based programs at the state, regional, and sector level in the United States. So since its founding, we've given 113 National Excellence Awards to organizations of all types. We've had more than 1,600 applicants, and that represents a small fraction of the users. It doesn't represent the participants in the state and local and sector programs, or more casual users of the framework who use just for improvement. It's the basis of many accreditations, and it's the basis for more than 80 national excellence programs from around the world. Okay, next slide, Stephanie.
Did it work?
It did.
It did. Okay, sure. So what is Baldrige, and why are we using it to apply to communities? Baldrige is above all a systems approach to improvement and eventually to get to excellence. And what that means is all parts of whatever entity you're talking about should be managed as a unified whole and not separated into silos. That means everything you do, all of your plans, all of your measures should be consistent, and everything should work together beneficially. And that diagram you see shows the parts of the system, consisting of your leadership, your strategy, your customers, your workforce, your operations, all of those leading to results and underlined by a measurement, analysis, and knowledge management system. So, okay, next slide. What that looks like is on the next slide. So when an organization doesn't have its strategic and operational goals defined, it could be that all parts of the organization are running around like those arrows you see at the top. And the goal of Baldrige, and what it actually does for you, is it makes you go toward the bottom where all of your goals are defined and all of your operations, signified by the arrows, are going in the same direction. One award recipient called it all the boats rowing in the same directions. So that's the general goal. Next slide. The basis for the Baldrige framework are these core values and concepts. And these are beliefs and behaviors that are found in high-performing organizations. The first one being the systems perspective, which is sort of what we just talked about. The next one being visionary leadership, and the other ones being the rest of the ones that you see there, all leading toward an organization that is ethical and transparent and delivers value and results for its customers. Okay, next slide. So just as in the 80s, the Baldrige framework was used in an area of national need, and that national area of need now is U.S. communities. And you can see by these key indicators that there are some big challenges facing the country, from education to income to healthcare and to declines in rural areas. So the idea was that if the Baldrige framework could serve to improve an area of national need before, and it has evolved to include areas of national need since then, it will certainly help with this crisis in communities. Okay, next slide, please. So why do we think this is so? Here are some of the reasons. The Baldrige framework identifies strength and improvement opportunities. It facilitates improvement. It helps you deliver what you need to deliver to customers, in this case, residents and other stakeholders in the community. It helps organizational and personal learning and translating that to communities, community learning. And importantly, it emphasizes monitoring your progress over time, and it helps achieve excellence. The ultimate goal is excellence, improvement leading toward excellence. Okay, next slide. So the key components, as I talked about before, are first this validated set of questions that asks you everything you need to know about your systems as they're shown in this diagram. It's applicable to any organizational entity. The criteria apply to organizations in any sector and organizations of any size, so it's scalable. It relies on benchmarking excellence, where you look at what you're doing and you compare it to an excellence standard and toward that. It helps you see where you need to improve, and again, it encourages communication and knowledge sharing. So translating that to communities on the next slide, here's what that looks like. The aim is for the framework to be applicable to communities of any size. Again, to use a systematic approach to get all the boats in the community rowing in the same direction toward a set of common goals, by aligning the strategies of community partners that are there now. Again, to benchmark excellence, again, to evaluate performance and figure out where improvements are needed, and again, to encourage resident engagement and communication. So these are the advantages we see to applying the Baldrige framework to communities, and that is embedded in the community framework that you see here, where the parts are community leadership, community strategy, residents and other customers, the people and organizational resources that help your community function, the shared initiatives you have, and the results you get. And again, underlying that is a system of measuring and analyzing your performance and managing the knowledge that you have. And underlying the whole thing are community culture and values like the ones I described before for the Baldrige framework. So next slide. So a key part of the community excellence framework is something called the community profile. And in that, the community defines itself. It lays out who are the residents, what is their shared identity, who are the other organizations that have a stake in the community, what are the challenges, what are your advantages. And the first thing that a community does is get together and answer these questions as a way of all getting on the same page of where are we now, what are our resources, and what do we need to do. And here you see a little sample from that. Okay, next slide. So ultimately, what does success look like? In our experience, a community needs to have a collaborative leadership structure. And the people in this structure would come from all sectors, businesses, organizations, healthcare, education, all sectors and all generations. And what they would do is they would collectively make decisions, set goals, combine their resources, and improve the community toward the goals that they feel are important. What we also want to see is adoption of the framework as a way of thinking about community structure and community leadership. And also you see, again, the role of benchmarks. that they would be able to compare themselves against communities to see how they're doing, to share best practices, and to improve their outcomes. Okay. Now, I realize that's a pretty brief introduction. Stephanie, do we want to take questions now, or do you want to rely on the chat box?
Well, because there's so many people on it, the questions will have to go through the chat box, unfortunately.
Okay, and as Stephanie's continuing, I'll certainly try to keep up with those on the chat box if there are questions that come in.
Yeah, and before we go on any further, I would like to invite Lowell Cruz or Rick Norling, or I also saw that Sandy Potta, another one of our faculty members, has joined us. So I would like to invite them to have any additional comments before we respond to any questions in the chat box. Lowell, Rick?
Yeah, this is Lowell. Ellen did a great job of kind of laying out how the system works. The reason that Rick and I became so interested in this after we retired from our healthcare careers, we simply recognized you cannot improve the health of a community or this country unless you improve educational attainment, jobs, safety, those kinds of things. And so because we both had experience with the Baldrige framework and knew how much it helped our organizations, Rick asked the question at a dinner back in early 2010, do you think it's possible to take this framework that Ellen described for organizations and apply it to communities? And we thought that the idea had so much merit. That's what we've been devoting our time to since we began, as Stephanie explained. So I'm glad that there's so many people here interested today. We've come a long way in the last few years building the framework. And now this next phase is to test it in some communities. And so we need people's help to do that and make it a long-term a part of the Baldrige framework for communities across the country. So we're making great progress, but we got a ways to go yet, and we need everyone's help.
Okay. Anyone else, Rick or Sandy?
Yes, Stephanie. This is Rick. I would obviously ditto what Lowell had to say, and I've had the privilege and the benefit of watching our pilot in San Diego, since that's where I live, and interacting with Health and Human Services, which is acting as the backbone, and watching this process emerge, and the importance of the community profile, which Ellen highlighted, and just getting the diverse groups to start getting a more systematic and total picture of the community, its strengths, and frankly, its gaps, and therefore opportunities for improvement, collectively and collaboratively. It's just been remarkable to watch that process and the light bulbs going on and the learning curve, et cetera. And then as we start to work through understanding who the real customers are, that interaction of residents and in the case of San Diego, tourists, there are all sorts of different insights that start evolving as the questions that comprise the framework are asked and attempted to be answered. It's really been a remarkable process to watch and support so far.
Thank you. Very well said. Sandy Potta, are you available? Would you like to add anything?
Yes. Can you hear me okay on the phone here?
Yes.
Okay. I would just add that as communities are thinking about participating, is that we're not asking anyone to change how it is that you're doing any of your current collaboration or whatever model you are using. This is really a way to help you self-assess and reflect on what are your strengths, what are your areas of opportunities for doing things differently or better, as a way that it just becomes the way that you do business as you really work on enhancing your ability to have a healthy community. So I know some folks might be saying, you know, we are using the FSG approach, and we think that is wonderful. This is a way to help you, you know, lay out using a Baldrige framework how to ask the kinds of self-assessment questions that will help you get better at whatever approach it is you're using.
Thank you, Sandy. That's a really important point. Okay, I'm just checking out the chat box here. We have, I've observed Baldrige framework succeed in organizations that have the top leadership support and involvement. In a community setting, there are multiple organizations involved with varying support for their individual top management. How do they overcome that? I think that's an excellent question. And I think it's been our experience in our current pilot communities has been very insightful about that. It certainly is different and a challenge in a community because you do not have a single CEO. And that's where the community leadership team becomes so important. That's where if communities are able to, having a community coach is so important. And as Lowell likes to say, the best athletes have the best coaches. That coach is someone that can serve as a facilitator and ensure that different voices are represented, ensure that this effort is driving forward. There are a number of different approaches to community leadership, and so the criteria, the category 1 community leadership criteria, is one way that will help you assess that and help you identify how to improve on that. I would let anyone add to that if they want to right now. Oh, okay. I hope that was a good answer to that, and we can certainly talk more about that another time. I'm going to now start talking specifically about the National Learning Collaborative. So hopefully you have a good idea of who we are, Communities of Excellence, and a bit of a background on Baldrige and what it means to take this systematic approach in a community. So given that, we wanted to expand the opportunity to more communities to be involved in this. And we also wanted to allow communities to learn from each other, to share their different approaches to the various aspects of this community journey, and be able to undergo this as a cohort, essentially. So the objectives for the year 1 of this National Learning Collaborative, and let me just add that we intend for this to be a multi-year effort. I mean, this is an adoption of a new way, as we said, of thinking and leading and making decisions. So this is essentially a culture shift. But we want communities to be able to choose how long they continue to be a part of the Learning Collaborative. So while we're only doing 1 year at a time, we have designed this as a multi-year curriculum. The objectives at the beginning of 1 year are to develop a Baldrige-based community profile, as Ellen shared a little example from before, and use that to identify the next steps towards your journey, to identify desired community outcomes and develop a community strategic plan focused on these outcomes, and then to establish a diverse, values-driven leadership team comprised of residents, stakeholders, and community key sensitive. So those will be our 3 primary objectives for year 1 of this. This gives you a little bit of an idea of the timeline. We have the year broken into 12 learning modules, and those modules start with a focus on the foundations of performance excellence and helping the community to build a profile, and then continue a year-long focus on community leadership and strategy development. And then throughout the modules, we will take an introduction to each of the other categories of the framework that we talked about, residents and other customers, measurement, etc. And then the final few months will be focused on sustainability of actions and then spread of best practices. And by the end of the year, we aim to have, like I said, a draft of a community profile and strategic plan. So if you're interested, year 2, we plan to work with our communities as we go to really understand what would be important for each community in year 2. But what we would then focus on for the second year is deployment of the strategic plan, and then a deeper dive into the other categories of the framework. So these are the descriptions of the sessions that would be involved in each of the 12 learning modules. We will have an online teaching session monthly, and these will be led by our Communities of Excellence expert faculty and other invited expert presenters. Each of these modules will include an assignment that will help the community build their profile, develop leadership, and develop their strategic plan. We also will plan to have regular collaborative discussion sessions that are designed for productive conversations to allow communities to ask questions, discuss challenges, share best practices, and we'll be hearing presentations from different communities in their approaches to the topic that's relevant for those modules. And then finally, and I can't emphasize enough how much I think this is going to be an incredible value to our communities, is that each community will be assigned a Baldrige Communities of Excellence expert to follow their progress and be available each month for specific tailored assistance and questions. And I can tell you right now that the current volunteers we have to be experts for our communities are just incredible people, and many of them are actually CEOs or heads of Baldrige award-winning, national award-winning organizations. So that is quite a treat. I'm going to just pause for a second because I see that there's a couple of questions. Okay, thank you. Ellen is taking care of that. Is there anything else right now about the curriculum itself? It is the specific modules are outlined on our website at COE2026.org/collaborative, and I will send that out as well. But I wanted to just give you an idea of what we're offering and how the curriculum will be laid out. And in just a minute, I'll talk about who exactly will be involved in that friendly communities. But anything else? Does anyone else want to add anything before I move on? Sandy, Ellen?
No, I think, Stephanie, you guys have all covered it well. Let's just
keep going.
Yeah.
All right. So right now, I would like to quickly turn this over to Mike Kramer from Manage Hub. And Manage Hub is the platform that we are going to be using to help our communities in the cohort essentially drive this process forward. So Mike, are you here?
Yes. Can you hear me all right?
I can, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So number one, thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm so excited to be part of this amazing initiative. I have such high hopes for, I've been following your progress, and I just see so much opportunity for the good that can happen in the communities. I know the power of Baldrige in the business world and in the nonprofit world, and now to open it up to communities, what an amazing opportunity. My involvement with the Baldrige community really rests with a curriculum that we developed specifically to help smaller organizations adopt Baldrige-based practices. And we've been partnering and working very closely with the outreach branch of the Baldrige enterprise, which Ellen talked about before. It's called the Alliance for Performance Excellence. And we've developed a suite of tools to help smaller organizations and economic development organizations do outreach to small businesses and improve the economic vitality of their very important small business community. So the cornerstone of what we've done is build a collaborative framework, a platform that I'm so excited that Community of Excellence 2026 is going to be using to manage the collaboration between all the participants. And originally it was created and it's used by organizations to adopt Baldrige. So it's a ready-made, ready-to-use Baldrige-based leadership framework. And if you recall, when Ellen was describing the Baldrige framework and you had all of those octagons where you had leadership and strategy and customer focus and operations and workforce, and all these elements have to work together seamlessly integrated to make the Baldrige framework come to life, almost like a management machine. This has been the thing that has prevented a lot of organizations from adopting Baldrige, because how do you build the machine? So in my workings with the Alliance and the Baldrige community, we developed Manage Hub, which is a ready-made leadership framework. All an organization has to do is turn it on and populate it with your processes, your departments, your projects, your strategies, your discussions, your ideas, everything, and start working with Baldrige. It's an amazing thing. And our mission is Baldrige for everyone. So we imagine a world where, you know, just like everybody has accounting best practices, they have management best practices as defined by the Baldrige framework. Baldrige should be a household name, and I think Communities of Excellence 2026 is going to do an amazing job getting the word of Baldrige out, that we have a national standard of excellence that needs to be adopted by everybody. In creating this, you can go to the next slide. Manage Hub and the Alliance have put together a suite, a turnkey suite of tools that comprise of the software, which I discussed in brief, and then also a 4-part online accelerator program, which helps onboard an organization into Baldrige. And by the way, this turnkey suite of tools, you guys can use this if one of your strategic priorities is economic vitality and to engage your small business community. And by the way, if they become adopters of Baldrige, imagine the volunteer network that you'll have at your disposal to further all the other strategic priorities of your Community of Excellence 2026 initiatives. So we've got the software, the training, and then we have this amazing tool that was developed in collaboration with the Alliance called the Success Score. And for the first time ever, an organization of any size, of any type, can take a rapid assessment and get a pulse of their current state of Baldrige maturity. It can be used to encourage business owners and nonprofit leaders to start their Baldrige journey. And then they can use it to assess their progress along the path. So it's really an amazing tool, I hope you guys all use all these tools. You go to managehubaccelerator.com, you could learn more about it all. And then if you'll advance to the next slide. So just to let you know how the software works, it's so simple. It organizes people into online collaborative workspaces where everyone has an equal opportunity to share their ideas, report and resolve their issues, contribute their knowledge, manage projects, manage strategies, collaborate together. And so in the next slide, what Stephanie and the Communities of Excellence 2026 team and I envision is that we purpose a Manage Hub instance for all of the members of the 2026 initiative, where all the participants can leverage the collaborative elements of the platform to kind of have a mission control for all the activities that you learn in the collaborative. So when you get a homework assignment, you can literally upload it and have your faculty member review it and give you feedback without the need for disruptive meetings. It'll be very efficient for everybody, but also will create a historical archive that could be referenced by you and your team and the other participants, depending on what it is, so that we can start creating a rich collaborative where we can leverage the wisdom of the crowd. We're also creative. We have to get into each other's minds, and we have to share our creativity and innovation. And I hope that in some small part, the Manage Hub platform will help you achieve that. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Mike. That was great. I want to address a couple people have some questions on the Q&A as well, and I wanted to take a moment to address those. We had the Communities of Excellence framework is designed for communities of all sizes and all complexities. And that could mean a community of 5,000 people, which for instance, one of the current participants in the Learning Collaborative is a community of about 5,000 residents, up to a large region, which for instance, San Diego County South Region has almost 500,000 residents. So much like Baldrige is designed to be scalable, this can be applied to a community of any size and any complexity. And something that was really interesting that we learned in a number of the focus groups that we did early on with different communities was that we know that communities have different issues. A small rural community operating in the context of a large rural region has a much different set of priorities than a large urban area or a large urban neighborhood. And even though that's the case, both of these different kinds of communities all found value in these questions and the criteria. So I think that one question I get a lot is, what exactly does community mean? And what we really learned through this, I think, is that much of, in some sense, what community is. It's I guess the region, the boundaries in which you operate, or you can make decisions effectively. I would also say that it has to do with a shared identity. So it's not necessarily always geographical, but we typically right now are focusing on geographical regions. So I hope that helps. And I do want to get into that helps me sort of segue into who should participate. For this Learning Collaborative, we are looking for communities, like I said, any size, any complexity, whether it's a county, whether it's a neighborhood, a community, that's all, that's up to you all to work out. But what we're looking for is communities that have a pre-existing leadership team representing sectors and generations, and that can take many forms, such as regional coalitions, pre-existing collaboratives. There are many efforts, like Sandy said, there's communities already have efforts that are already going on in their communities, and so something like that, or if that isn't something that's available in your community, we're looking for communities that have commitments from the members of the key sectors that we talked about: health, education, business, government, and safety. And by no means do you have to have everything right away, but it's important to have a core, a focus of leaders, community informal and formal leaders who are going to participate in this. We also are looking for communities that have an identified backbone organization to serve as the key contact and help facilitate this work, and that are willing to share generously and commit the time and resources required to fully engage. I think we all know that there are no simple answers and no quick answers to the challenges that our communities face. And so this, this will require time, and it will require, the willingness to commit to it. We also are looking for communities that are willing to share information with the other communities in the cohort, because what's key to this is that we're learning from each other, and learning different approaches and being able to share what's working, but also what isn't working, because that's extremely valuable as well. And then finally, if communities have members of the communities that have a knowledge of Baldrige, that is certainly desirable, or we're looking for members of the community with a strong desire to learn. Let's see, there we go. So just to add to this a little bit, I think it's really important that a community has the support of key leadership. I think we know in this form of perhaps conveners or champions, someone that's going to help drive this effort forward in your community. Dedicated project resources. When I talk about this, I think that one of the things that we've learned and that we've worked really hard to ensure with Communities of Excellence is that this is able to be done with the resources that a community already has. But it does require some resources in the form of meeting spaces, data availability, the time from those who are involved, and eventually, like I said, we know that a community coach is going to be a vital addition to any community that's on this journey. Like we already said, a commitment to applying performance excellence principles to your community, and dedicated support for measurement and data infrastructure. And then finally, I just want to add that valuing diversity and inclusiveness is an expectation, absolute expectation for this National Learning Collaborative. So the final piece is the next steps. Many communities that I've spoken with already have said, so, if I'm interested, what do we do next? And these are the identified next steps that I would say right now is to get together and determine who's going to be involved in your community leadership team or who will represent your leadership team. Identify a backbone organization and a small project team that will be engaged with the Communities of Excellence Collaborative. And then the membership fee of $20,000 for 1 year, and the fee includes all of the offerings that we've outlined, including the Managed Home platform, the expert support, and all the assistance to develop your profile and your community strategic plan. So I see there's a couple of questions. I would like to turn it over to any of our faculty to maybe add something while I read some of the comments. Sandy or Ellen, would you like to add something?
Well, I'll take one of the more easy ones. One of the questions was, what have you learned from the 2 pilots? And I think one of the things that's been reaffirmed is the power of the community profile. San Diego, the people from San Diego spoke at another webinar about the progress that they've made just by using the profile to define who they are, where they want to go, who their partners should be, what they want to accomplish. And so that's what we've learned, that's just as in the use of the Baldrige framework, the community profile is a key element of this whole effort, and the value from that alone, it makes the effort well worth it.
I think I'll add to that. I live in Northwest Missouri, so that's the other pilot, this Lowell. And I think what we've learned, Northwest Missouri is an 18-county region that's rather a large area. And so we've spent a lot of time thinking about what happens regionally, what has to happen regionally, and what happens locally. Because, and it's true in San Diego County, we believe it's true when Stephanie says any size community can use this and do this. What we understand is that if you're very large, that there's a role that the region, the county or the region has to play. But we also recognize that everything actually happens at the community level, at the smaller community level. If you're a small community wanting to do this, you understand that you operate in the context of a bigger region. So what we've learned in Northwest Missouri is that we need to think regionally, and we need to provide certain resources and encouragement to the communities. But frankly, you have to break this down into individual communities and their efforts. It's what Mike Kramer was talking about a little bit earlier. But that's where the real work gets done. And what we've learned is that not everybody's ready for this. We have two communities in Northwest Missouri, small town of Brookfield and their neighbor Marceline, and then another little bit larger town, maybe 10,000, called Maryville. And both of those communities are enthusiastic. They see the early results of this conversation and are enthusiastic in working with us to take us to the next step. So it's amazing what happens when you really push the issue of getting everybody engaged. You start talking about the systems thinking, using the profile and the community profile to help people start practicing how do we work together and think differently. It is amazing what happens as you begin that work.
Thank you, Lo. Actually, Annabelle, if you are on right now, I hate to put you on this spot, but one of our representatives from San Diego's Health and Human Services Agency is on the call today. And I wanted to, there's a couple questions I want to address. One is from Adam Cohen, and it was, where did it go? What have you learned from the two pilots? And it's been an incredible journey, I have to say, especially working, I live in San Diego as well, so working with our San Diego County pilot. The process of responding to the questions in the community profile alone, I think has revealed a number of things about the community that we maybe didn't respect or didn't expect or didn't quite realize. And especially in looking at the data about the community. Just a couple weeks ago, the South Region Leadership Team had one of their first major meetings designed around putting together their shared community strategic plan. And so what they did as a group was we presented American community survey data from 2010 and 2015, and then discussed it. Basically discussed what was surprising, what we want to learn more about. Based on that data, who wasn't in that room, that leadership table room that could have been. And just as one small example, in the South region of San Diego, the number of residents aged 65 and over grew by about 22%, whereas the number of residents under 17 only grew by 2%. So that piece of data alone would tell you a couple of things. If you're an organization working in that community, that's extremely valuable. That helps you understand who your residents and as an organization or who your customers are. It also helps us understand, do we have representation from that group in our community leadership team? And at the time, in that meeting, we actually did. So there was one immediate gap just from that small exercise. So I think that at the stage that we're in, we're understanding a lot about the community and identifying a lot of gaps in representation, which I think has been really interesting and is going to be very helpful for the future. And the need to understand the voice of the customer, which is category 3 and is really essential to this. So those have been some of our major ones. I'm going to see if Annabelle is around, is available. Annabelle, are you here? Okay, well, I'll continue. I'm trying to see.
So Stephanie?
Oh, hi.
Stephanie?
Annabelle?
This is Sandy, and I saw an email that said, or a chat pop up that said if you can unmute Annabelle, that she is available.
I'm here now. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, our experience with doing what we call the grounding session to show the data and make sure that everybody had the same understanding of what is in the community, I think was very invaluable. When people come together, we come together always with our assumptions of what we think our community is, and we usually change our assumptions based on who we're serving, and that's who we think is representative of the community. But by doing what we call the grounding session and just looking at who actually lives in the community, what are the jobs in the community, what is the income level of the community, provided a lot of opportunities for all of our community partners to be on the same page, per se, as we're describing who lives in our community. And I think that's going to be very beneficial as we move forward in building our strategic plan, because that will put us all on the same level playing field with the same understanding.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see, I'm trying to look at some of the other questions here. Regarding the Baldrige C.O.E coach assigned to the communities of excellence, do they coach just the community as a whole or the members, organizations in the community? That's a really good question. And so I think you're asking about the expert that Communities of Excellence will provide in the Learning Collaborative. And the way that we structured this is we're actually keeping it pretty open, and I've been working with each individual community thus far to figure out what works best for them. We're recommending about a project team of about 5 people, and their responsibility would be to ensure that they're on all of the webinars and all of the sessions for the collaborative, and that they share that information back to the community leadership team. Now, all of the sessions will be recorded, so that's one option for leadership teams. Another is actually at Brookfield Marceline, they're going to reserve a room for each of the sessions and just invite as many people to participate as possible on our training sessions. So the role of the coach from C.O.E is to coach in whatever way that the community chooses to take in that information. If it's with just the small project team, then that's fine. If it's in a way, for instance, the way that Brookfield and Marceline are going to do this, that's also fine. That would, I think, be up to you as a community leadership team and your expert that you're working with. And as Mike also mentioned, Manage Hub will be an excellent platform as well for you to be able to use that support. And so that's another option for you to get that feedback. Let's see. Am I missing how do you define communities? I think I'm trying to figure out if I missed any questions. I think that's all of the questions. Am I missing anything? Steve asked how do we begin using Manage Hub locally. I would suggest that you contact Mike Creamer at Manage Hub Accelerator, and I think Mike, if your information isn't on the PowerPoint, I will add this to the follow-up email that will come out tomorrow. Let's see. Is there any other comments from our faculty or board? And then if there aren't any other questions, we'll start wrapping it up. But anything else? No.
I would just say that, as Annabelle had mentioned, that I think a big benefit of this, starting with the community profile, is even if you've worked together a long time, these kinds of collaboratives work at the speed of trust. And when you really try and take a step back and say, let's just start and make sure we're all on the same page about what we mean when we talk about our community and who they are and what kinds of opportunities exist, that this is a way to focus people on the evidence and the data, so that whatever history and culture is in any given community, and we know every community has its history, it has its culture, but this structure of using a framework like the Baldrige framework, starting with the community profile, just really helps kind of restart everyone in a conversation that says, what do the data and evidence show us? And then how do we start from that common platform to move forward? So again, we recognize that these community collaborative approaches, working across sectors, rely on relationships and moving at the speed of trust. But I think a big benefit of this approach is it's always coming back to what do the data and evidence show, and how do we generate new and productive discussions based on what we see in the evidence. And I think that is such a strength of this approach.
Thank you, Sandy. That's a very good point. I'm going to make two more comments. One, as someone who writes, Lowell indicated that his experience in Northwest Missouri was that not every community is ready to be successful with C.O.R.E. How does a community make an intelligent risk determination prior to investing $20,000? That is an excellent question. Thank you for asking. I think that my comment to you would be, my best comment to you would be that as I have discussions with communities, we have talked about that. And I would say that we would be willing to just have a one-on-one discussion with you, or get some of our other experts to really talk that out and see if that's something that makes sense for your community. I think just an assessment of the leadership and the level of commitment is really important. But I think that we want to help you understand that as well. So that's what we're here for. So I would just encourage you to reach out to us. One other piece that I did not mention in this, and I realized maybe I should have, is that as we talked a little bit about Baldrige early on, one of the sort of the big exciting pieces of Baldrige is that organizations are eligible for national presidential recognition when you reach a certain point in the Baldrige journey. And our goal for Communities of Excellence is that communities would become a sector in Baldrige that is eligible for that presidential recognition, just like the others are small business, healthcare, education, nonprofit organizations, etc. One of our goals is to be in that point as well. In the interim, we've worked with the Baldrige program to develop a series of recognition levels for communities, so that your hard work and effort will also be recognized, consistent with the Baldrige program. So that is something that I can give you more information about another time too. But we just want to know that we are working with the Baldrige program for that too. Let's see. Anything else? I think I don't see any more questions right now, and if I missed any, I apologize. And like I said, my contact information is everywhere, so please just reach out to me. I'll stay on the line for a little bit longer, but I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. This has been really great. I'm very appreciative and really excited about what the next year can hold for all of us. Please just reach out to me personally if there are any extra questions or any other information you want to know. That's what I'm here for. So I hope to be hearing from a lot of you soon. Thank you very much.
Stephanie, could you just clarify what would be the next step? So if communities are interested to reach out to you and let you know, is there any particular time frame you're looking for?
That's a good question, Sandy. Our goal, like I said, is to launch this in April, but I want to be open and flexible to ensure that that the communities we have interested are ready and that we can meet their needs in time. So I would say to reach out to me as soon as possible, and then we can discuss a timeline that's more realistic. But in the next month or two is when we really want to get this going. All right. This is also going to be recorded, so I will post the link on our website, and if I can, I'll send it out in the follow-up email tomorrow. I should be able to. If you haven't had a chance to, we have we work with the Health Doers Network and put on a series of learning labs over the past 6 months. We've been working with them. Learning Lab 4 is tomorrow, and you'll be hearing from Annabelle Poole, who you've heard from earlier today, about Health and Human Services' role as a backbone organization in our San Diego pilot. That is tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and should be a really interesting and informative webinar for those of you who are considering this. In case you're wondering, we currently have 4 communities signed on to participate in this learning collaborative. We're looking for 12 to 15 maximum, but there's not really a minimum, so I think that we're good to go. Nothing else? Well, we are very timely because it's 4 minutes to the hour, so I applaud all of us. I will just, oh, you know what, I have one more slide. Not that one, this one. I will leave you with my contact information, all of it, and a particular quote that I really like.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.